Hi, I'm Dr. Elaine Halley. Come and join me online where I'll share my session about simplifying multidisciplinary workflows using tools like Smile Architect and exocad to really leverage that patient experience and help patients to understand all of the treatment options that are available for them.
So welcome to our second session of the day. So this is the Align Technology breakout session. My name is Marina Robach. I'm the responsible for the clinical education for Align Technology. And in this second session, I would like a warm welcome to our next speaker. She's someone that is dedicated in implementing digital dentistry for multidisciplinary treatments in her practice. She's also the founder of the British Academy of Aesthetic Dentistry, Cosmetic Dentistry, and a DSD master. So she will bring to life everything that you heard from Christian in the previous session with real cases and how she uses all the technology available between scanner, softwares for planning, and of course including the exocad to better collaborate with the lab technician for an outstanding clinical outcome. Welcome, Dr. Halley.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here. Thank you to Elaine for inviting me to be here. I am Elaine Halley. I work in Scotland. I'm a general dental practitioner with my own practice in Perth in Scotland, about an hour north of Edinburgh. But I split my time between seeing patients in my own practice, and I'm also the clinical director for a small group of practices that now has 14 practices across Scotland and the north of England. So I split my time between seeing my own patients and also working with the dentists that work in all of those practices to help them transition to a digital workflow, to a more comprehensive treatment planning way of working. And that really informs my teaching because I see firsthand the challenges that dentists have when they're coming from a more single tooth way of working. They're being hit with all of the technology that we have, and then we're trying, obviously, to keep all of those practices profitable and running at the same time. So today what I'd like to share with you is and Christian kind of set me up perfectly for this because, again, I've worked with the digital smile design concept for many years, and taking, what the brilliant visionaries in our profession bring all the way back down to what do I actually do in my practice with my nurses. We were talking about team members and having nurses, or dental assistants embrace change. How do I take those concepts and really bring them into real life? And that's hopefully what I'm going to share with you this morning. I try and break it down, and this is how I've had to do it to be able to implement it into leveraging digital technology to really capture the information first of all, then leveraging it in that treatment planning system. And I find this is where, for most dentists in practice, there's so many barriers against doing this correctly. And then also improving the communication with our dental technicians, with our patients, so that we do get to be able to carry out the dentistry that we understand how to deliver. One of the things I love about working in general practice is it's never the same day in and day out. We never know who's going to walk through our door. We don't know what their condition is going to be. We don't know what their dental history will have been. We don't know what their previous experience will have been. But one thing that I find has changed, certainly over the course of my career, is this concept of what do patients actually come asking us for. I'm old enough, along with some of you I know, but old enough to predate the internet and social media. And certainly I've found that, in the days before patients could access all of that information, they didn't come in asking for specific treatments. Patient didn't know all of the specific treatments that we could deliver. But now I find patients self-diagnose, don't they? We all do this with anything medical or anything that we might need. We go and look for information. We ask ChatGPT now or Perplexity, and we self-diagnose, and we also treatment plan. This is what we need. Patients certainly look at social media with an idea of images that they've seen that they like. They also look at cost and figure out, where do they want to spend their money and what might be the most appropriate treatment. And so we end up with patients coming in that might or might not be asking for something that is at all achievable. And one of the challenges I see with younger dentists in particular is that they believe they need to deliver what the patient is asking for. And so they'll come to me with a patient like this and start talking about how would they deliver veneers in this situation, or even worse, if this patient had asked for composite bonding additions, which is huge in the UK, it seems to be at the moment. They would be trying to reverse engineer the patient into what they've asked for because they believe that's what they need to deliver. And of course, what everyone in this room will understand, what patients are really asking for is the ability to communicate with confidence, the ability to act as a human being without being self-aware of their smiles. So learning to ask the questions to get behind what a patient is actually asking for is extremely important. And of course, in this group where we are team members, what do we want? We meaning dentists, dental technicians, the dental team. What do we all want? We want to be able to deliver happy, satisfied patients who can go out and face the world. We also want to be able to sleep at night, knowing that whatever dentistry we've provided is going to survive in that long term. And we also don't want to do what still happens, as Christian mentioned, we don't want to have to replace dentistry because despite our best intentions, it didn't deliver on the patient's expectations. And I spent a lot of time thinking about this because I work with dentists and see the barriers to them implementing the technology that we have available. And I've come to the conclusion that if we think about the profession of dentistry, if we think about where we came from, I'm not quite old enough to have worked in a chair like this, but if we think about where we came from, we grew up as a profession as my tooth is broken, can you help me? Or I'm in pain, can you help me? It was a very different scenario to the vast array of treatment that we can provide today. And again, even over the course of my 30 plus years in dentistry, we have changed hugely the techniques that we're able to use. The technology is coming in leaps and bounds. I don't need to explain that to this audience, but our philosophy has also changed. We're trying to be minimally invasive. We're trying to hold on to tooth structure. We can be really sophisticated with our planning. We can visualize everything that is possible. We can create avatars of our patients and let them see what's possible. But we do fundamentally wear two hats as dentists in dentistry, and we have to decide where we want to fit here, because the model that works for a single tooth situation, the model that works for I'm in pain or I've broken a tooth, is more of a handyman. That's where we've come from. And it's not that that's wrong or that we don't still need to act like that, but it's a very different way of working to go from being a handyman dentist, which is where I see most dentists are graduating into that philosophy. When we're talking about smiles and full mouths, by default, we can't use the same systems that we use to treatment plan, diagnose, and sell the single units. It's not the same thing at all. And I don't think we're taught that very well. And if we add in then all of the visualizations and all of the transformation that technology is going through, it's no wonder that dentists have a challenge adopting the technology, because I believe that the systems that are lagging behind even our own thinking and our own education are those of the dental practices. Most dental practices and most patients coming to visit dental practices, and not all, because obviously, clearly in this room, I know there's dentists that have overcome these challenges. But most dental practices are still set up with an expectation that the patient comes in, sits down, the dentist has a look, and the patient knows what they're asking for, and the dentist says how many appointments that will be and how much will it be. And there's no space in that for leveraging digital technology. There's no space in that workflow for really treatment planning and diagnosing. Look what Christian was talking about, how many numbers of steps there were on the screen before it got to actually present to the patient. That's massive compared to what we're used to doing and the system that most dentists work within. So that's the challenge before we can start leveraging any of the technology, Smile Architect, any of these amazing technologies that we have, is that we need to remember we don't maximize any of that. And the dentists, if you're technicians, the dentists that you're working with will not be able to leverage those technologies if they can't fundamentally have that shift in the systems and the way that patients are guided through the practice. Because again, patients are the ultimate decision makers. Like everything we do, we cannot assume that patients are just going to do what we believe they should do. We all know that life isn't like that. Human beings don't do what's in their best interest just because we tell them they should. And I love this quote from this book by James Clear, that we don't rise to the level of our goals. We can have a goal to be the best digital performing practice out there and lab out there, but we fall to the level of our systems. It's the systems that underpin everything that we do. So when a patient like this comes in, what is the system? What is the system that as dentists we're working with? How do we have the conversation time in, time out with these patients? And I think that all starts, as we know, with reimagining the dental examination, having the expectation of the dental examination not being, I'm going to tell you what you need, or I'm going to give you your treatment plan, but making it an experience so that we use our intraoral scanners like the mirror and probe that we used to use, and we take the patients on this journey of discovery. And we've set that expectation from before the patient even comes in to the practice. So they're not, disappointed or waiting for, well, aren't you going to tell me how much it's going to cost or how long it's going to take? But we use all of the visual storytelling features that we now have built into our scanners, like Align Oral Health Suite, that gives us a sequence to be able to guide the patient through what we see. And I can also tell you, as a dentist and a clinician, it's a much less stressful environment to be able to switch off my treatment planning brain and know I don't need to know what am I going to do with this patient. I don't need to know, will I have to open the vertical? Would ortho be, a benefit here? I don't have to have answered all those questions. I can just focus on what is the information that I need to capture so that when the patient leaves, I have everything to be able to treatment plan the case and consult with my colleagues as appropriate. And I think it's this, just as Christian said, it's this world of we've got our own biases, we've got the psychology of us, we've got the psychology of the patients that we're dealing with, we've got all this amazing technology sitting in the middle that is being underutilized because we haven't changed the systems. And then ultimately we are healthcare workers, we're dealing with biology, and our aim in life is to make people healthier and happier than when they came in. And this quote, I do feel like I overuse this quote, but I love this quote because, again, it speaks to the habit that dentistry has got into in thinking about procedures and not diagnosing. But Einstein said, if I had an hour to solve a problem, if we think about a patient, a smile, a mouth, like the problem, he'd spend 55 minutes thinking about the problem and only at the end of that come to what the solutions might be. And Einstein believed the quality of the solution that you generate is in direct proportion to your ability to identify the problems. And again, we don't do this naturally. We're not taught how to do this, but this is where digital technology really helps us. So we can capture the patient, go through that treatment planning brainstorm, and then be able to tell the story in a visual way back to the patient so that what he walked in asking for is only a portion of the treatment that he was able to accept and finance and go through all of the time in the dental chair that no patient wants to go through. And digital technology is the key, but we have to change the systems underlying our practices to be able to really harness this so that we give patients the opportunity to say yes to more complex treatment plans. So I've kind of pulled this into a quick workflow around comprehensive dentistry. And I think when we start thinking about it a bit like Christian's slides, there's a lot here that isn't typical of how we used to see patients historically. And even the skills that we need to leverage all the technology, to take facial scans, to take videos, If you're working with dentists as technicians, coaching them through what's an acceptable photograph and what isn't an acceptable photograph. How, if you're the person doing the planning and the imaging, you need that data presented to you in a way that's usable, not just any old photographs taken from any old angle. Again, the companies are starting to help us with this. Align have got resources, there's online training, they've really broken down what is comprehensive treatment planning, what is the data that we need to capture. But then we need to be able to organize that data, which most dentists don't take time to do because the system isn't set up for that. Because it's only if we organize that with our minds and we take that pause, we have time in our schedule when we're going to sit down and do the treatment planning. That's the only way we can start looking at all of the diagnostics that we need to achieve, all of the technology that can help us. Because when you have a live patient in the chair, as we know, they're a 3D moving version of everything that we're trying to analyze, and they ask us questions. So if they're quiet for a minute or you're quiet for a minute thinking, the patient is interrupting our flow of thought constantly, which makes it very difficult to pull together everything that we need to look at to be able to develop a treatment plan. So we need to do the diagnostic process, but we need time in our system and we need the data to do that and work with colleagues to help us. Smile design is hugely important as a motivator in the visual storytelling process. And again, now we have numerous tools to be able to help patients visualize the potential of the dentistry that we're talking about. But I think all of these technologies also help us initially. We need to think it through as clinicians and treatment planners. If we do this treatment, if we move the teeth, how does that help us deliver the expectation of the patient? If we move the teeth, do we still need to restore them? If we don't move the teeth, how are the restorations going to work, or what's the biological cost of those restorations? So all of these, I call them emotional touch points, all of these systems give us the ability to visualize our potential treatment plan in the patient's face. And that by default helps the patient understand the potential of the treatment that we could do. But first and foremost, it helps us make sure that we could actually deliver it. And technology is speeding ahead here. You'll all see AI video images, AI where you can put in just a 2D picture and the patient starts moving, even although it isn't them. And these have a place, and I think one of the slightly challenging things that we have is different tools work in different cases. And some dentists might want to take control of imaging by themselves. Others will prefer to outsource that. We're not CAD designers generally. We haven't learned how to do that. Then we've got other tools like facial scanners coming in. And, I think these are not patient friendly. They're helpful for our understanding and imaging, and we can see in the profile, which we can't see from any other source, but generally we don't want to show patients images like this and think they're going to be motivational, because they're not. So there's a lot that we need to do in that in between to figure out and to leverage digital technology to really identify the challenges of the case, to be able to play it all out in the different softwares. And this is where Elaine have done an amazing job, an amazing service to us with joining the two dots of the ortho and the restorative world. And being able to put cases into Smile Architect direct from the intraoral scanner and play around with spaces. If there's spaces between teeth, what if we close the spaces? What if we leave some space open? Do we need to restore teeth? Could I achieve this with restoration alone? All of this trial and error helps us build up our thinking process before we've taken it to the patient, before we've engaged the patient in the process of what it would take. So Smile Architect brings in all of the digital smile design concepts that we used to have to do manually. It's a huge jump forward in treatment planning, and then secondarily in explaining to patients what's possible. Because, again, there's no one way to solve these cases often. There's pros and cons of the different solutions. We can leave space around teeth, we can close diastemas and need to restore the teeth. And so I find Smile Architect really an invaluable tool in being able to test out those treatment plans in the patient's mouth. The link for me between something like Smile Architect and what I do and where I work with my technician is that transition into exocad and the planning 3D softwares. So being able to export directly from Smile Architect, and my technician can bring it into exocad. And for some of my dentists, this is where the technician takes over and is able to deliver the smile design image, is able to deliver the wax up to be able to do a trial smile in the mouth. That seamless connection between Smile Architect and exocad is extremely helpful, and then lets me come back to the patient in order to again explain, so if we move your teeth, we can be additive. If we don't move your teeth, we're going to need to prepare and remove tooth structure, and then that decision-making process is held by both of us. Sometimes I put cases through Smile Architect and I end up not moving the teeth, because by the time I've put them through Smile Architect and worked with my technicians, I can figure out that actually we can achieve a good result without needing to move the teeth. But it costs me nothing as the dentist to be able to test it out and to be able to ask my technician and to look at the benefits, the pros and cons of using the different elements of treatment planning. So you can see here that I'm generating a before image, an ortho-only image, and a restorative image, and then I can figure out what are the benefits of being able to move the teeth or not move the teeth, because obviously that's going to cost the patient more and it's going to add more time to the treatment plan. I only want to do that if there's a definite biological benefit to that situation. So with Smile Architect, I can switch restorations on and off. I can plan ortho only, I can plan restorations. I have all of that flexibility, and I can liaise with my dental technician as to what we think is the best outcome. If we're going ahead restoratively, then, as you all know, I can liaise and look at exocad web viewer, but often I find it stops there, so the approval of any solution stops at the exocad web viewer. Whereas if my technician can also send me images of the actual restorations, then I can see things that I don't want to discover when I'm fitting it onto the patient. And just this is a case I did with DSD Lab. Just as Christian was saying, I can fix those things before it gets to the point that it's in the patient's mouth. And I'm sure we've all done it the other way around, where we fit something in the patient's mouth and then we realize, I don't even like that small characterization. And just to finish, the next case I'm going to show you to end up is my practice manager. And we presented a case to her. She's got lovely teeth, but as she's got older, she's worked for me for over 25 years. As she's got older, her teeth have become more translucent, they've moved a little bit, she doesn't feel the pride in her smile that she used to have. And so she asked me, could she have some veneers on her upper 2-2? Of course, she's a dental professional, she's going to be very specific about what she asked for. When I looked at the case, there were some ortho requirements that I felt was needed, but of course she doesn't want to wear Invisalign, she knows what it is, she doesn't want to do that, she doesn't want to have attachments on her teeth, she doesn't want to do any of the treatment planning that would really benefit her. And so working again with my digital lab, we come up with a plan. She then evaluates the plan with me, and she doesn't like the shape of the teeth. So then again, we talk about the benefits of moving the teeth, get some modifications done. And the next video I'm going to show you, the sound is a little bit grainy, so apologies for that. You also need to be able to talk Scottish, or understand Scottish, so apologies for that also. But this is a video of her. Now, she is in the dental profession. She knows what we're doing, but this is a video of her seeing the trial smile, so seeing the visualization in her mouth. And it's not, we've all seen videos of, patients crying and loving, the result. It's not for that. I just want you to listen to what the psychology of the experience that she is having when she sees herself smiling for the first time. And the sound gets better, so just bear with that.
So what you show me first?
I'm going to show you a video
Of them cut look.
of both, side by
Can I
side.
look now?
You can look.
Oh, they look really good.
They're just subtle, aren't they?
Oh, it looks so good. Like even just the colour and like they're wider. Oh, I love it.
I don't know why that's clean like that. I'd actually look them together better.
I actually love it.
Do you?
Yes. Oh my god, they look so good. They really look good. And it's so subtle. I thought I'd feel weird because they weren't as square, but oh, I love that photo. I never liked photos of myself. But that's actually got me dead excited. That's actually got me dead excited. They look so, and do you know what? I think the colour, like that's my whole thing, is that they seem like grey, my ones, do you know, because they're translucent.
Do you want to see the pictures in colour as well?
Yeah. Oh god, I really look. Oh. I love it! I definitely need 5 to 5 done, like for sure. Oh, they're so good!
So you notice what she wasn't talking about was until at the very end, she's like, I need 5 to 5 done. Like, I'm not going to be happy with just the anterior teeth. But she was so emotionally overwhelmed with the improvement that that's going to make to her, that then it's no question. So then I could say to her, are you going to do the 31 aligners of Invisalign? Because if any of you treat staff members, you'll know they can be the worst at compliance. They'll give up halfway through treatment. But now she has in her head that because we've designed it on Smile Architect and she understands it's tooth movement and restoration, she's going to dig in, and she's now got her attachments on and she's into treatment. So I think that process of gathering the information, first of all, developing a system and practice, though, that we can leverage the technology and we can really utilize the emotional touch points wherever they are for each patient, because not all patient needs a live trial smile in their mouth. Lots of patients, we can leverage the digital imaging, which is a much easier way to do it. But we have to be able to flex with the different options that we have. And if we use all of that technology and build it into what we do, and make sure then that we are not stopping at those early stages of communication with our dental technicians, so that by the time we really do deliver the final result, we can all sleep and rest easy, and our patients are happy. So thank you very much for your attention.